Primary ignition.
This is Star Wars.
Look out!
Core. World. News.
You may fire when ready.
From the bright center of the galaxy, I'm Grex Conduct, and you're listening to Core World News, your whole-net news show providing in-depth coverage of the latest stories from every sector of the galaxy. Welcome to our special review of the finale of Mandalorian Season 3. But first, Adam would like to share some words.
Thank you, Grex. I appreciate that. I have prepared a statement that I would like to read. Ben and Grant, I know you didn't know this was coming, and it's going to be hard for me to get through, but I just let me say this, and then I will open the floor to questions and comments. Okay. During last week's broadcast, under the effects of alcohol and ego, I did something unbecoming of a Core World News host. I am not making excuses or trying to sweep any of my actions under the rug. I'm just providing context. In the end, my actions are not forgivable, but I do hope that you will allow me to continue growing and learning. I know that I'm the newest member of this team with only 290 some odd episodes under my belt, but again, that is no excuse. I feel deep shame for those that my actions have affected, and I pledge to do better. Now, I know some of you may not have listened to last week's episode, so you may not know what I'm referring to. So let me spell it out. I, Adam, doubted Ben, my co-host's ability to predict what was going to happen in a Mandoverse show. Looking back, it was utterly foolish and inexcusable, and I promise, going forward, I will not make the same mistake. Thank you. I will open the floor to questions or comments.
Any questions?
Do we have the time marks for when Ben outlined this exact finale in last week's episode?
The whole
entire episode of last week.
Ben was like, you know what I really like is just the Mandos getting together and just like stomping out Gideon once and for all. I was like, all right, like yeah, I could get on board with that, but I don't know. I also wanted something a little bit more intricate, and I don't know. For me, I thought this was incredible in the second viewing. I was like fell in love with this episode. I thought every decision was perfect, and like it was all set up, even though the season felt a little inconsistent and compressed just throughout. Yeah, everything was set up, so everything does work. But I just feel like it did feel like a little redundant given it's round 2 with Gideon. And Gideon, I feel like not enough for Giancarlo Esposito. I thought there could have been a little bit more for him to do. I think it leaves something to be desired with that role specifically.
Yeah, it's interesting they did that. I mean I was consistent in what I called there. I think I mean I didn't, when I brought up like who are the spies last week, I didn't expect it to be this like spicy thing, like controversy. After we like got off, it was like you guys were piling up on me, and I was like starting to doubt myself.
We owe the armor an apology, and we, I just don't think we knew about the development process for this season, and I don't think Thrawn was in the cards really. I think Thrawn is going to be, in Ahsoka and encapsulated there, and that's sort of. I think we just thought maybe they were going to do more of a trickle, given the Palpatine. There was the backlash to somehow Palpatine has returned. We thought maybe there'd be more of a macro story with Thrawn.
Yeah,
but I guess
which I think there will be.
I don't know. That was my read. That was my read. And, and then the TIE Defender attack on Bo-Katan's castle. What was that about?
I mean, I think that was they were on patrol. They saw a Mandalorian ship leaving Mandalore, and they followed it, and then they just bombed it. Like I thought it was some like big thing. Yeah. But then it was just sort of like, no, they just found her. Like they found her taking off on that planet because they were patrolling. They were already patrolling Mandalore, so they just followed her. At least that's my theory. But I do want to. No, I do want to say about the armor, just like. So like we got into a deep conversation, and I was like started to doubt, and I'm like, but like all week I was nervous about this episode, not because I didn't want to be wrong. Like I'm always wrong. Like I'm used to that. Yeah. It was just like I didn't want the armor to turn, because the armor is like this. It is the celestial body. She is the celestial body at the center of the galaxy that is the Mandalorian. This is the lore keeper. This is the person that creates the way, that maintains the way. There's no heir apparent there. And if she's gone, the whole concept of what makes this thing cool shatters. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
She's the soul and lifeblood of
Right.
the Mandalorian.
This is the way
sure.
that that goes away if she's dead, or if she betrays the only thing that everyone's been following this whole time. So that's why I was like, this just can't happen. And then so I rewatched the whole thing. I got Wednesday off, which is amazing. So Thursday night I watched 3 episodes and I watched the rest Wednesday morning. And the whole time I was like, no, I'm right. Like, no, she's not. There's no way she's going to turn. But I had like your ideas in my mind, and you guys, I love your ideas. You always come up with awesome stuff. But I was like trying to like look for holes. The best I could come up with is I was like, maybe Bo-Katan's going to die. Like, that's the only thing I thought they might have been setting us up for.
No, we just got a big fat dub for the man.
They just won.
That's what this finale was, and I'm here for it. That's great. Like, that's fun. That's Star Warsian. That's George Lucas. That's revving motors and threading the needle. I love it.
Yeah.
I want to hit on a couple things, Ben. I think earlier in this, when you were talking, you said you're often wrong. I said jokingly, but not when it comes to the Mandoverse. Like, you have the Mandoverse's number. Like, your hit rate is ridiculous, and I think part of it is, and I don't want to get too like I don't want to analyze our podcast too much and get a little
meta
inside baseball, but I do want to talk about for a second, because like, we have 3 very different perspectives, and Grant, you are a writer, right? And so you have the writer's brain going constantly. I am a social scientist and a scientist by trade, right? So usually I come at it from like, well, like, what's going to work from a business standpoint. I get very cynical in that way when I put things together. Like, well, they're not going to do this because that won't work if they're going to try to build this show out and do that. Like, my brain starts doing all that. And Ben, you just have the purest Star Wars brain. Like, because and I don't mean this as like a backhanded compliment, because you're a very creative guy and like, you're very thoughtful and analytical. But like, when it comes to Star Wars, you're just like, no, this is Star Wars, and anything outside of Star Wars doesn't matter. Like, my brain, when you're watching something, you're only consuming Star Wars, right? And so like,
we're infiltrating
bases, my stuff
we're getting the troops together.
See, that's the thing.
We're rallying, we're fighing, we're winning, we're doing sweet moves in starships.
Yeah, and that's Filoni, right? That's Filoni and Favreau. They're only thinking Star Wars.
I mean, you're being very kind. Thank you, Adam, for saying that. But I think you just, both of you have forgot more about film than I'll ever know. And it got to the point, like, I mean, my suspension of disbelief, like, my inability to analyze like where the most basic like plot was going in a movie carried me through like all the transporter films. Like, I just like, and enjoyed the heck out of, like, I just like want to sit in there and just get stupid and watch a movie and enjoy it. And unfortunately, you guys are rubbing off on me, and I'm starting to be like, what was that cut about? Like in other films and stuff. But I really try and maintain that sort of like that just suspension of disbelief. Like, dude, I've got a 5.1 surround system, a 75-inch screen. People don't talk to me. I don't eat. I don't look at things. I hold my chihuahua.
When that TIE squadron launched, I was
there, dude. I had my Mando helmet like
beautiful
with me. I had it on that day, but I was like,
remember that music started going, that bass just slapping. You were.
Yeah, I'm like, let's go.
But and you're getting the bad end of the bargain, right? Because we're rubbing off on you, but you're also rubbing off on me, where I feel like I'm able to just like when behind the scenes, when Grant and I were texting this morning, not favorably about this episode. We'll talk about the journey we had.
You guys are getting eggy.
Yeah, real bad. And Ben was just like, I loved it. I have no issues. And like, you kind of said it, and I'm like, and then Grant did another rewatch, and he came back, and I'm like, all right, I gotta sit and do another rewatch.
See, I have a light side take and a dark side take.
Yes,
I'll give it to you guys.
I'm of two brains.
I have two sides to my take of this episode. I think it's actually beautifully poetic, given I love episode 2, and that's when the child and Mando get together for the first time, and now we have them working together in a huge way. In this episode, I thought that was super poetic.
Yeah.
And then there's that's not you're not going to give us the dark side, Grant. Then
I'll give it to you all in a little bit. We'll just do the summary first.
Oh yeah, and then I'll just Sorry, I stepped on your summry, Grant. Let's see your summary, and then we'll jump in.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Let me get a drink of water, and you guys chat.
So the other thing I was going to say about this is that I feel like I need to go rewatch. I also feel like they know there are people like Grant and I out there, and I feel like there's a lot of misdirects in the season of trying to make you start feeling and doubting and thinking about the armor, because like every time I watch it, like we were watching the episode and Carly's like, "Where's the armor?" I'm like, "Yes, where is the armor?" And apparently she was right on the ship she was the entire time, just waiting for reinforcements. Which is
I had the same thought. I was like, "Oh man, where is she? Where is she right now? Oh my god, did she just fly by that ship?" I'm like, "No, she radioed in. She radioed. She wouldn't have radioed in if she was gonna ghost."
Right. Yeah. And so I think they really were like having a lot of fun at people like myself's expense. And I'm here for it. Like I love feeling.
I wonder if it was intentional.
Gamed.
I mean, it took off. People were just like, I mean, I guess because as you guys both pointed out to me, the thumbnail of the spies has the armor like in profile. You know, I guess there were some.
I did that just to troll you. I did that just to troll you.
I know you did, but you're not wrong.
We were having a great combo last week.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm refreshed. I had to get some Tonnery wine because this is a long summary. I didn't want to like be reductive. This wasn't my all-time favorite finale of all time, and I could have been reductive, but I went in deep like I do in every summary, and I feel like we need to go beat by beat because I feel like this is a huge episode.
And just one thing I want to say before you start is I'm actually really glad it ended up this way, because the tone of this episode of Core World News episode would have been bad if it had turned out how I expected, and I would have been like gloaty, and then I would have been felt bad about being gloaty, and Ben would have been bummed because the armor like would have been bad, and it just would have been a sad episode.
I would have been like the Mandalorian's retake Mandalore.
That's what I was worried about, guys. It was like I just didn't want that to be the case from a story standpoint, and like because I'm like I don't know if I'd watch Mandalorian after that. Like I don't know what the draw would be. You might as well kill Grogu if you're going to have the armor turn against the team. Like
All right. Let's do the
chapter 24, the return. This was also I was like the return. Thrawn's Pelion was like overtly talking about Thrawn's return in the last episode, and I was like, okay, here we go. I was getting ready right when that happened, and then anyways, directed by Rickfamuyiwa. I think our favorite director, all three of us on the pod.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like that. If you listen to us in the last 200 episodes, I think we just keep highlighting.
Not to take anything away from Bryce Dallas Howard, Deb Chow, Filoni, Favreau himself, but no, Famuyiwa is.
I think so. Yeah.
The episodes are just on point. Okay, we begin in media res with Bokatan and the Mandalorian strike team in full retreat from Gideon's troopers. Bokatan makes contact with Axe Wolves, who's currently rocketing through the turbulent atmosphere to alert the fleet they've made contact with the enemy. Bo tells Wolves to use the capital ship as a decoy and get their forces to the surface to assist in the counterattack against Gideon's forces. Elsewhere in the Imperial base, Dindjarin escapes his captors and reconnects with Grogu. Din convinces Grogu they need to bring down Gideon once and for all. In his command center, Gideon sees the Mandalorian child have escaped and are making their way through the base. He orders his TIE squadron and bombers to destroy the Mandalorian fleet, while he exclaims he'll deal with the Mandalorian himself. Mando and Grogu decide to push deeper into the compound to confront Gideon. Upon reaching the skywalk of barrier shields that lead to Gideon's inner sanctum, Din radios R5 and has him disable each shield one by one so he can fight several pairs of Gideon's troopers without being overwhelmed. After besting all the troopers in the skywalk, Din and Grogu stumble upon Gideon's cloning lab and discover the clones are strand casts of Gideon himself. Din sabotages the tanks and floods the room, taking refuge in a small cave. Surprisingly able to sustain life, Bo-Katan and her team finally get word from the rest of the Mandalorians, this time via the armorer, who says her reinforcements have arrived. Bo seizes the moment and orders all the Mandalorians to rally on her to descend into Gideon's facility and retake Mandalore once and for all. With their captured cruiser nearly destroyed from the attack by Gideon's TIEs, Axe Wolves decide to nosedive towards Gideon's base, creating a ticking clock for the brave counteroffensive. Bo and armor fly side by side as they collide with Gideon's numerous jet troopers. What then takes place might be one of the most spectacular aerial battles ever depicted in Star Wars. Arriving at Gideon's overwatch position on a docking ramp below the battle, Din and Gideon duke it out. Din is nearly killed before Grogu steps in to shift the odds. But just as our heroes seem to have the upper hand, the fearsome Praetorian guards emerge from the shadows and set their sights on Grogu. In a deeply stressful moment, blast door shuts, sealing Grogu in a room with the elite fighting force. Inside the room, Grogu's IG mech suit is quickly carved up like butter, but Grogu uses his force powers to flip onto a hanging light fixture and waddle and vault around to avoid incoming swipes. Seeing Din is on the landing platform, Bo comes to his rescue and battles Gideon with the Darksaber. giving Din the opportunity to save his little guy. Din races into the room and working together with Grogu, the pair eliminate the Praetorian Guard in an incredible display of teamwork. Din and Grogu then run to assist Bo in her fight against Gideon, but just as the fight seems to enter its climax, the captured Imperial cruiser touches down the base, obliterating everything, including Moff Gideon, in a fiery inferno. Inside the fire, Grogu uses the Force to create a protective bubble to keep Bo and Din safe from the blast. With Gideon finally defeated, the Mandalorians return to their homeworld, reignite the Forge, and complete Paz Vizsla's son's rite of passage. Din decides to officially adopt Grogu so he may be recognized as a Mandalorian and become an apprentice under his tutelage. Mando and Grogu visit Adelphi Station to meet with Captain Teva and extend their services to the New Republic. Teva considers the offer and they leave. Returning to Navarro, Din gifts Greef Karga, a fully restored IG-11, to serve as the city marshal before both Din and Grogu retire to their attractive land for some much-needed R&R. The end.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's the episode, pretty much.
That is the episode.
That's it, man.
That's like pretty much the entire. That's like beat for beat what we saw.
Yeah, it was like you're turning pages on a comic. Which
But like,
happened.
I didn't mention all the sweet sliding action. I guess like action
So
staging, stunt choreography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this show, like, I think I take points away from it for story because I think it's kind of simple. But I think like what's really brilliant in the show is just the design.
Yeah.
Like the framing, the visuals, the stunt choreography, the action blocking. Like there's just so much that the show offers that I think we're kind of not giving it credit for, for being as good as it is. It's like incredible.
Yeah.
It looks stuff. It's like arresting, basically.
I cannot believe how much I've come around this episode. Just hearing you read the description again, I'm like, can we stop this and can I just watch it again for a third time? I'll give you like I mean we were hinted at. I was not a fan of this episode. I watched it last night. I was actually very actively upset. I woke up at 3:30 this morning. I just woke up from a dead sleep with like, I did not like that. I am not happy about this.
Oh.
I forgot the Darksaber gets crushed.
Yeah. And
that's what happens.
The more I think about it,
I guess because it's just like it kind of gets crushed and doesn't.
It doesn't matter because what matters woke up at the bottom of the sea. We'll talk about that. But I feel like when I was processing this and watching it the second time, realizing that this is the end of, like, part of me wonders if when it comes back next year, whenever it comes back again for season 4,
it could be
if it doesn't say if it doesn't say book 2 chapter 1, like, this is the closing of a book. This is the closing of the first of the part of the trilogy. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this felt like a definitive end in a way that season 1 and season 2 did not. And I feel like that's what this is. This was just a 39-minute. I was gonna say something that was gonna come out real dirty. This is a 39-minute end of it, right? I was gonna say climax, but I'll just say it, right? That's what it was.
I said in the summary, so
yeah,
it's already been
that'll
said.
be the name of the episode. 39-minute climax.
39-minute climax.
I was thinking about
calling this nowadays. Yeah,
beamed in Grogu.
I mean, if we're looking for sponsorships,
that'll get some clicks. Yeah. So no, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's all it was. Is that it was all 7 episodes before it was set up, and this was just the payoff and all the action. Are there some like plot things that I'm still like, I'm not quite sure about that didn't quite set for me? Yes, but like I really love the action, and it is nice. And this is taking a note from Ben with the High Republic. Is like, it's just so nice to see victory in Star Wars, like just a clean victory.
A nice dub.
So rarely do we get those.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything can't be the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. It's like my heart can't take it, and it's just nice. It's not. I mean, because like if we're gonna go back to the creator, right? Like George Lucas, like, that one of the coolest moments is the stupid medal ceremony at the end of A New Hope, right? Like, it's incredible. And it's just like, yeah, can I go to the movies and feel good? I'd like to do that, please. And like for so long, especially with the prequels, you're like,
fair
the
point.
prequels are headed towards tragedy. And then like, we had the sequels and we didn't know what that was headed towards. And still aren't really sure, to be honest. I mean, so, it's just, listen, it's part of canon. And I mean, I can point to all the stuff that John and Dave have done. It's like, this is Star Wars, right? Like, yes, it's a little campy. Like, yeah, it's, whatever, but it's like,
I thought it was super metal, actually. I thought it was like, this is the most metal episode of like Mando
this
I've
episode,
ever seen.
yeah.
It's like all these armored like Mandos and armored troopers just battling.
Yeah.
Like, that was
I
awesome.
mean,
yes.
So John Favreau gets
so rad.
Favreau gets the like writing credits for all this, like sole writing credit, right? But like Filoni's fingerprints are all over this. Like Filoni I feel when I saw that, like it was like an aerial, the battle in the field, right, with the two armies coming together. But this was like the Mandalorian version of that, and it was just as like awesome as you'd think it would be. But it really felt like a Filoni moment to me, because Filoni spent so much time with the Mandalorians and Rebels to like have these like aerial battles and do all these fights. But it's like it definitely, like, it's not just the production value of it being live action. It's more fun. Like they stepped up the drama. I mean, dude, there was a meme. I have so many memes. I'm gonna have to send them to you afterwards. But one is like, it was like me trying to go to work the next day after drinking, and then it's like it's like my hangover like coming at me, and it was the picture of the armorer taking that person out in midair. That was like my like room shook. It was just like thunk.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Hammer, and we were like, that was like hard. That was hard.
And it was like a full body, like using the jet propulsion to like just get that extra leverage.
It was like a big poppy home run.
Yeah, and what's amazing about that scene, I mean, other than just the scene itself, is that they found a way to iterate on the third act of a Star Wars film, which is always cross-cutting between a battle in the stars and something going on between two characters. And this time it was like jetpack fight. Like it's amazing. Cool. It's really amazing to think about. Like I was literally watching it going the first time, and one of the few times I was kind of like in on it, where I was just currently like, I'm like, they're doing it, they're cross cutting.
Yes, the power slide on her knees across the thing, and then just falls off the power side, and then it's just like
it falls off and then turns and uses the knee rockets.
Oh, and the knee rockets,
that was epic.
So many knee slides. Katie Sakaloff was sharing pictures of her knees, like her today on Instagram, just for like, she was doing the stunts herself and just all the knee slides.
Good for her.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sliding in this episode.
There's a lot of sliding.
Even like the Mandos who are like landing on the gauntlet, like drop ships, like are sliding onto the ramps and stuff. Like that was
so cool.
That was such a cool shot.
Grant, you brought that up a couple episodes ago. It's like nice to see the Mandos not do superhero power landings. It's like they're all like like whenever they're landing, it's ugly. It's like you're using a jetpack. Yeah, and it's like it's hard.
Real life, like And
sliding seems efficient though when you think about it.
It sure does.
With a jetpack like that. Yeah.
And it's Beskar, right? So you're gonna slide in that because that's all just that's gotta be slick. And I just
Again in this finale though, Din's just taking blaster bolts like right to the back. Like
he catches a lot of bad ones, man. I mean, like he's a great fighter and can do whatever, but he uses that Beskar to its max. And
he knows it can withstand, and he uses it as you would, right? Yeah. And the other thing is that they brought back they really, it was very much a greatest hits type of episode in some ways of Star Wars and The Mandalorian, where I remember like way back in episode 1, we were talking about the video game ness of The Mandalorian, right? Because you get like Beskar upgrades. That hallway fight is a video game.
Oh yeah,
like that. It's amazing, but it's a video game, right? Of just like just like take these two guys out. Now you open the next one, you take the next two guys out. It was beautifully shot and amazing, but it felt like a video game.
How about my guy R5, man?
Definitely gamified.
R5 getting his hero moment.
R5. How about the mouse droids bashing R5? That was hilarious.
That was a funny moment.
They're like, stop or we'll make more noise again. And he's like, I'm out of here. Bye.
Yeah. So good. Is there like speed ramping with the mouse droids? Because like for me, the mouse droids like just were whipping around.
Yeah, they were going pretty fast.
Crazy.
I think they did that in the OT too. They like made him look super fast.
They did. I think they speed ramped it. Just to make.
I think in Empire, right when Chewbacca roars at one and he just like does a 3-point turn and splits.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's probably very slow, and then they're like, "Let's ramp that."
It's made it look comically funny.
Yeah. I love that. I don't know. This episode has so many crazy visuals.
The other thing is like, there's literally they went as far away from my theory as you possibly could go, to the point of like, I'm armor, not a traitor. I'm not shocked by that. I really thought they were setting it up, but like, I'm like, that makes sense because of everything you've been saying, Ben. Axe Woes is a straight up hero in this episode, and is the one shouting for Mandalore at the very end. Like he's the one, he is fully bought into this, and that is a huge turn for
I
that
know.
character,
Yeah,
right?
he's like a
It's-
major
it's pretty
character
incredible.
because he
Yeah.
relays that information, that crucial info.
Yes, right. Yeah, he did I didn't realize he was the one that split until that episode that was like, I'll make a run for it and like go and like blast into space, which I didn't know that was his plan either.
Yeah, I didn't know they could generate
Yeah.
that amount of propulsion to do that,
Yeah.
but that's amazing.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, I guess you can pressurize it. Needs must, right? I mean, that was an amazing shot. But so I
That's very
rewatched
cool.
all the episodes, and I'll probably pepper little things in. But like, I found like 12 things over the first 7 episodes that I didn't catch the first 2 times or 3 times that I watched the episodes. But one was like, so Axe is like, he's challenging Paz in the last episode, the spies, and he's getting his butt kicked again, and he gets thrown over near Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks shoots him this look like, dude, are you really gonna get your ass kicked again? And it's pretty classic, and he's just like, and he just like throws himself at like Paz, even though he knows he's gonna get like murdered again. I just thought it was kind of funny.
He was taking L's for a little
That's
bit.
what I mean.
Though. And then this episode was the
Yeah.
comeback.
He was taking out. He was
Yeah.
he was owed a good one, but it was like, dude, that sequence might have been it could be my favorite in the episode.
That was a cool moment for him. That was
like
huge. That was like
him rocketing into the airlock, just like throwing off his stuff,
Yeah.
sprinting through the thing, and then like you cut to the bridge, and then he comes into the bridge, and he's just giving commands, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I guess we're out of here." Boom, and he's,
And
well, he was the leader,
I'm going to
right?
say this
Yeah.
Before
but it
He
was
was
the other
leader.
dude's
He
ship.
trading with Bo,
Any-
and then Bo is now leader again, and then so
because I'm going to say something, and I don't mean it to be weighted, but he basically just did a Holdo maneuver,
lived.
right?
yeah.
But I guess the difference is if Holdo had Mandalorian armor,
right?
she could just
She
blast
could've,
it out
yeah.
of the window. Like, because I was watching that going, oh look at that, he's gonna
I did
do
too.
a sacrifice play. I was watching it. It's like he shot the window. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
he's
just
a
gonna fly
jetpack.
out. Yeah.
And he's armor. Of course he's getting out of there.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice twist.
That was crazy when it crashed into the sinkhole, like into the base, and just everything exploded. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what a great move.
So
There's so many things I want to talk about, just like in minutia on this. I mean, there's a lot of, like, the names. You guys talked about the names. Inverse wrote an article today about it's like the duality of all the names of the episodes, where they all mean 2 things. And I think this gets also to what you're saying, Adam, with like the head fakes. We definitely got head faked all season. You know, from the first episode, it was like, okay, they're lining up all the missions, and then they promptly didn't do any of them, right? But yeah. But
I so assuredly lined up exactly how this season was going to go.
So actually, and after we had our conversation, people started coming up with talking about the 12 spies from the Book of Numbers, the 4th book of the Quran, I guess. Sorry, my religious theology history is terrible.
very cool.
But dispatched. It was the 12 Israelite chieftains who were dispatched by Moses to scout out the land of Canaan. I'm sorry.
Canaan. Yeah.
Canaan.
For 40 days as a future home of the Israelite people. So this is now the second major reference to this time period in this book, in the Quran. Like we talked about the shard. We talked about this last week, I think, too. The shard that was in episode 1 from the glass, and the etching was like about like a similar thing.
Yeah.
So it's like this parallel to the Jews taking back their land. So I mean, that's amazing. Like we talk about on the show all the time how like religion is like should influence this a little bit. And it wasn't about religion, but like you can tell the mythology of these events, carried forth, and were sort of the basis of this whole series.
It's all Campbellian, right? Like
Yes.
Campbell in the book sticks away from the Judeo-Christian religions, as I remember from that book, mostly looking at some of the Asian and sub-Saharan religions. But like you can apply the same thing. Like you can apply the same thing to anything. And so it makes sense to borrow from religion. It's borrowing from myths and legends, right? So
Yeah. I would argue that I think Favreau did a great job in that. Like he and Filoni, I think, are a great match together because they sort of like, they're not Lucas, no one is, but as far as the pillars of Star Wars, you can go through and check them all off. I'm not going to do it right now. But I'm going to start, I think, in future episodes and keeping score because, it matters. It's like if you watch Rebels again or for the first time. Like, it checks all the boxes, and Filoni made that from whole cloth. Like, yes, there's a cameo here and there, but I mean, he made all the main characters, like, you know, and created this whole story, created planets. It's a very Lucasian thing. It checks all the boxes: Masters, Apprentice, aliens, romance, you know, honoring what came before, presage what comes after, like all that stuff. Wars in the Stars, obviously, which gave me chills in that show. But yeah. Anyways, so I think this is Favreau's version of that, and it's very Kurosawa, right? I mean, Kurosawa kind of should be his own pillar, really. Because it's sort of that's the basis of it.
Yeah, I just don't know, like, if just following like the genetic building blocks of Star Wars is always like the best thing, because I feel like even though you can include all the fundamental aspects of Star Wars in your story, like, what are you trying to say? What's the meaning? That's why I think like that, you know, the episode with Lizzo and Jack Black, at least there was like some political commentary in that episode. At least there was something to say. Like, I'm kind of interested in that sort of stuff. So I almost wanted to know why Gideon was trolling the Mandos. Like, what is the beef all about? I wanted to get to the center of that morsel, and we kind of didn't get that. And that's, I just feel like I wanted a little bit more about that conflict. So and
maybe we get to that's my biggest issue with this episode and the season is Gideon feels like a finger tenting, like pointless villain. I'm sorry. Like, I love
somehow Gideon is escaped and he's here. I mean, I think Jason, our listener, said I'm like that did feel like
Giancarlo Esposito is amazing, and Gus Fring is one of the all-time villains in television and cinematic history, and so it's nothing that he's doing. I think part of it is you have we talked about it, you have 8 episodes, and they wanted to hide his reveal to like the last episode. It's by the time he pops in, I'm just like he just keeps popping in, and
his suit was pretty sweet though, like. All forgiven, given the suit and the vocoder.
I will say,
so awesome.
I gotta.
That's what Ben was like, guys. I'm an audio guy. Like, you don't understand.
What do you think about the mech sounds coming out of that suit?
Oh, I think it was definitely powered.
It was.
He was enhanced.
That seemed so weird to me, and I don't know why. But I kept hearing like.
Because I know. Well, what were those? So wait, what were the guards? I forget what they're called. The ones from last season. No, last season. Those, like, what are they called? Dark Troopers. Thank you.
Oh, right,
so there's an evolution of Dark Troopers.
Where were they at? Because I feel like he had a huge advantage with those guys. I don't think anyone can stop.
Yeah, like they're better than the Praetorian Guards.
They're way better than Praetorian Guards. I was like, whoa, just build a couple more of those.
I mean, I don't know, but he went with I think he called the Mandos that were flying around there Dark Troopers. So it's like you see this evolution, and then he's got the next evolution, which is like a cooperative, half machine, half man sort of thing. And I don't know if we'll see any more like that, but I think that was the homage to Dark Troopers and what they're doing. And I thought it made sense because it's like you had to up the stakes with Gideon this time around, and you had to make him, give him an advantage, graze the stakes.
Did you have to up this? Did you have to like have a round 2 with Gideon without some other extra information or like?
I get that.
I don't know. Action he's also just from another character or angle.
He's also just.
We lost you. We lost you, Adam.
Wait.
Can you say it again, Adam?
No, sorry.
We lost you.
He's just also really bad at his job. Like.
Why didn't you go to the next room to save his precious clones?
You were you were right next door.
Standing there after that briefing, and you could have gone to you could have got your clones out of there. I don't know.
Okay, all you had to do was take away the scene where they show him literally watching the dots moving. So if you could say he couldn't track them, then he's just like, oh, I didn't know they were that close. Yeah. He knew exactly where they were.
Well, actually,
you think the first place you would run would be.
So that right after that scene, they show. Dindjarin, like Dindjarin's just walking aimlessly, but then he calls in R5, and R5's like, no, you want to go this way, and he gives him. So he probably Moff Gideon leaves thinking he knows where he's headed, but then Dindjarin
okay.
changes direction
and
heads for
okay.
that. It
All
suddenly
right.
knows where he's going. So I mean,
But that's fine. Here's the counterpoint. You have one thing to protect in that entire base. One thing. Maybe sit in that room
yeah,
and protect
and
it.
wait.
Just wait there.
He's just bad. He's bad as job. He's a very poor man's emperor.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is
also,
sub-level.
he probably thought 10 or 5 ray shields and 10 armored guards would be enough to protect it.
Fair enough. I mean, he is. Yeah, that's.
He just feels like a
always
video
the
game
downfall.
boss,
Yeah.
like you said, Adam. He feels like Dr. Robotnik or Bowser, like in some subterranean dwelling, like breeding an army.
He's not
to,
Bowser.
Like
no.
that are just
Don't,
fodder.
No.
That are just basic
Stop.
fodder.
Stop. It's don't give him that. He's one of the Bowser's kids. Like he's
oh, Adam.
like okay, he's a sub-level boss. Come on.
We gotta rate
Poor
him.
Gideon.
It's just a little video game. It's a little gamified. For some reason, it just feels like everyone's getting upgraded and clashing again, and that for me, that's not enough of a story. Like, I don't really know how everyone's feeling about this, like retaking of the planet. Like, there's the rallying speeches are kind of like few and far between. There's not like a lot of sort of like rallying the troops moments. Really, it's just like we got to act. I just want to know what Bo's thinking. What Din's thinking.
Wait till season 4.
I got to go on adventures. I don't get to like enjoy this home that we've just. Replayed.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's his speech, which is just like he has that like love-hate thing with the Mandalorians, where he's like hates that, like in like old colonialism, where it's like I hate you so much, have my babies, and he's like he hates the Mandalorians so much, and yet he covets their technology and their culture and their lifestyle.
Yeah, what's that
their
about?
aesthetics.
Yeah, and then it's just like
Explain
I'm gonna
that to
spit
me.
on your grave, I'm gonna kill you all, and I'm gonna make the Mandalorians in my own image, because he knows that's the only way he would ever be a Mandalorian or like run Mandalore. And that speech from behind the shield was just the kind of thing, like I think they were all working off of rage and fear at that point. And like that carries through right to the last episode, where they were operating in unison, because they have a common enemy, and this guy is the worst of the worst. He's the bane of their downfall. I mean, they're all standing among the ruins of their planet, a lot of them seeing it for the first time, and just being like, yeah, I don't know. I felt that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. The other thing I love is that like the lesson that Bo-Katan says, which is we are better together, right? Basically, that Mandalorians are not. It's not a Jedi thing, right? It's not about being the best Jedi. It's about being the best group. But that just, second time watching it, like it's kind of wonderful storytelling. That it's always borne out in all the fights at the end that like Grogu can't take down the Praetorian Guards on his own, and when Din Djarin comes in, Din Djarin can't take down the Praetorian Guards on his own. He almost gets killed like 3 times, but because they work together as a team, and then when suddenly they swoop in, because part of me was watching Bo-Katan get owned by Gideon, and I'm just like, oh come on, like you gotta win it, right? Like
she slashes him straight across the chest, though, like
almost the neck.
She would have won if that armor was any weaker than it was.
I thought she got him in like the neck.
Yeah, I was like,
a
done?
shoulder thing. I was like, he's done. Like he's done. You made it.
I was like, game over, right? Like we beat the boss.
Yeah.
All right.
But I wonder, like watching back over the season, which you just did, Ben. Like I feel like that's got to be a theme throughout, right? Because I'm thinking about the episode where we talked about when they went to go get that lizard.
Which lizard? Sorry, you froze again.
Lizard thing. The flying lizard thing.
Yes. The found.
We talked about. Yeah,
the thing that
we talked about Bo-Katan.
Paz Vizsla's son.
Yeah, right. But we talked about Bo-Katan not being the one who took it down. But I'm particularly thinking when you watch back, it's a team effort, right? Like they're working together in that a little bit.
Well, I think that's the symbolic aspect of like the dark saber being destroyed. It's like now, basically, it's not about one person leading. It's about the group. Yeah. It's about the clan. That's, to me, that's super interesting. It's about the covert altogether. Yeah. And I don't know if they're going to do like still be night owls and still be Mudhorns and still be all that after that,
Right.
after the Darksaber's gone. I mean, I don't know if they'll be even more unified at some point. So, yeah.
That was actually,
might
I
be
was wondering about that too. Was like, what? Because I found it. I have so much to say about this. Well, I'll start here. So I found it odd. Like, what are the place of the Children of the Watch? You know, I guess so. I'll just say it because it's hanging over my head. I think the armorer actually did go like subvert herself in when she promoted and allowed Bokatan to bring in people that don't follow the way. So it was just like, because she was, I mean, if she was going to go in any direction, she would have just like suckered in the non-way people and killed them or whatever, because she's such a devout follower of the way. But like what did subvert her character was she was just like, no, if we're going to rebuild Mandalore, we need to bring everyone together and accept them for our differences. So that was a long preamble to like, I wonder what role the followers of the way will have in New Mandalore, you know, because not everyone's going to be a follower of the way, but there will be these people. Like, are they going to be religious figures? Are they just going to be people that believe something different? Like, or are they like, are they keepers of something, or do they have some sort of rank that comes along with it, or ritual role or something? I don't know. We know the armorer does, but
yeah, I wish there was a little bit more just rolled out there in terms of like the expansion of the Mandalorian lore. Like, I wish when they were taking back the world, like the armorer was like hanging out in the forge for a second, you know, unlocking doors, doing something just to show us a little bit more. Like, I just wanted more. Like, I wanted the cities to kind of like open up, or like lights to go on, or something to like just show we're home, like we're turning on the lights again or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
They did show the garden,
and more explanation of what's happening, other than just the same scene we saw at the other planet, like almost like a little bit more of a conversation. But again, it felt a little compressed, and I think like that's happened every time we've gotten to the Mandalorian part of the episode. The sort of third act of each episode has sort of had the Mandalorian storyline, and in those beats, it's felt very compressed. Of like what they're doing, where they're going, how we're setting that up. It feels very quick.
It was
I
very
just feel like
ambitious.
Give us a little bit more of them coming back, reclaiming this, you know, their home world.
Right, like develop that storyline instead of having these vignettes, which I thought was a nice touch. Like it serializes it to have the, you know, CSI episode and then the Pershing, like Coruscant episode. But that was that was some of the least interesting stuff. I love the CSI.
Just the armor, I think the armor, I feel like they're a little bit. They could have given a little bit more time to the armor. In each episode, honestly, because I feel like she's just quickly rushed in and rushed out, and I'm like, if she is the epicenter of the Mandalorians, like when she gets to the forge, maybe she does something interesting or different, and it's kind of a fun scene, or there's more lore, there's something else offered. They talk about the Darksaber and its destruction and what that means. Maybe you know, I don't know, like.
Yeah,
we no longer need a Darksaber. Bo-Katan is the ruler of Mandalore. You know, she is the Mandalore or something. I don't know, some kind of crazy metal ceremony of some kind.
Yeah. Instead, they just had the lighting in the forge, which I mean, that was still pretty powerful. But...
yeah, that was huge.
Very symbolic, and it was great. So Jason just popped something in the chat that is kind of building off of something that I was thinking about. We're a little bit cross purposes here, but I'll read his comment. When we're talking about kind of all the stuff that we were thinking about, he says that's probably something we'll see in season 4. I don't know. I part of me wonders if Mandalore is going to be more like what Tatooine was in season 2 and 3 of this season. That now we've kind of, if you look at where we're going with, if we're following Dindjarin, and we'll talk about that, it kind of feels like we've simplified the storytelling again.
I think we missed a bunch of that. Would you mind repeating that comment? You're getting like tight bandwidth, and I missed it.
Yeah, I was just saying. I feel like we've simplified our focus and our storytelling for season 4, right? Because we've really cut off Dindjarin and Din Grogu from the Mandalorians. So are we just going to be following them? And then when they need to go back to Mandalore for something, that's when we get to Mandalore.
Grogu the Mandalorian, guys?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Can we just say it right now?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I was gonna save it for last, but yes.
Is Grogu?
Yeah,
Is
because
he the
dude, think about
Taster?
it.
Is he the
So
Optimus
now he can go on his
Mandalorian?
journeys, right? They call it the like journeys of apprenticeship for however many seasons you want to go, and then in the sequel, in the like Rey, whatever happens afterwards, I bet you're going to have maybe that's when he takes power as the Mandalorian. But he's being groomed, right? He is force sensitive, and he's communicating with the mythosaur. It's like, and he's going to live forever, so they could have a Mandalorian ruler for 1,000 years. It's just like, and then you've always got that, and he's going to lead, new Mandalore into the next whatever, and they could participate potentially in the, the Rey episode or feature film or after. I've spoken.
Yeah, no, that would be interesting. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. I personally just want them to be drifters and the show to end maybe next season and sort of, I don't know. I feel like this was a pretty nice bow, honestly. This ending, like, I don't know where you go from here, other than maybe it's bringing them into the Ahsoka verse and kind of making Ahsoka the
think that's
character. Maybe a Bo-Katan show, or maybe a Sabine show or something where it's like Din and Grogu I feel like I've gotten enough, honestly. Like, I feel like it's perfect at this point. Yeah. It's a nice bow. They got their house. Well, obviously they'll show up in other stories. They're just, I don't know if we need. We'll see. It's the Disney Plus like flagship show, so it's not.
I was gonna say
anytime soon.
That's the great. That's the writer in you. They're not going anywhere. But I feel like it's just going to be that they're going to be drawn into something, right? That's what we're going to see, is that they are right now on their own Grogu quest to training. But something's gonna in the larger galaxy is gonna pull them.
I hope a Purgle takes them away, and that was the foreshadowing. Because I want them to just like survive, but just like, of course they weren't there for like the clash with the First Order. So maybe they were just in the unknown regions. Or something.
I want to bring back. Sorry, I just want to speak to Jason's point
go for
real
it
quick, because Jason, he was with me on No Thrawn this season. He may have wavered a little bit.
Yeah, he was,
but he was
Yeah, you guys both deserve a prize for that.
So I don't want to speak for him, but I think when he was saying, like, I could see a thing where it's like we get our like wandering swordsman with no swords, actually, Mandalorian and Grogu, Din and Grogu, or I guess we have to call him Djarin and Grogu now.
Right, Din Grogu.
I think
Din
we
Grogu.
sort of flash and they tell side stories about what's happening on Mandalore, because I think it's important that they grow the Mandalorian lore alongside what's happening with Dindjarin and Grogu and Din Grogu. And I think that'd be easy to do. It's just like we can't just stay on Grogu and Din the whole time. But I mean, I would love it. But I think they can do those wandering like Mandalorians through the galaxy forever. And I'm hoping Adam's right, where it's like we just saw the end of the first act. Those 3 seasons were the first act, and we've got 2 more acts, 6 more seasons. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I think there's something there, and I think Mandalore is going to be treated like Navarro is going to be the new Navarro, basically, where you get an episode or 2 every season, where they either go back or we just cut to them completely. And I think now that we had the Pershing episode, they might be more comfortable not having to like shoehorn Mando and Grogu being there, right, to tell a story that they might just cut to. I the other thing, and this is getting back to my whole like looking at the world outside of Star Wars and our own world.
Boring.
All right, this is a very clean. Well, it's boring and depressing.
Great.
It's a great combination. It's a very clean bow, as we mentioned, they put on the season, and I think part of what's happening is there's a looming writer strike. That is going to be bad. It's going to be bad, and it's going to. We're not going to see these characters for 2 to 3 years.
Well, we know that season 4 is written. I don't know if you need writers after. You do still need writers.
You need writers on the set. I mean, the reason why in the last big writer strike, so many of these shows that got produced that were.
Favreau's the writer.
Yes, but it's a weird thing because you can't write while you're on set.
He's in the WGA though, so he's going to have to participate regardless.
He can't really do it. And like if you remember way back, I can't remember what year it was, but that writer strike happened. There were so many shows that they shot with the shooting script, and they were bad because so much writing happens on the set, right? Like on the time. And so like the biggest example is like Quantum of Solace, like the James Bond after Casino Royale. Just watch that movie with the lens of knowing that that's the writer, that's the shooting script, and that they were like Daniel Craig was rewriting on the set because he could and no one else could.
Oh, I get it.
It's a mess. So they're not going to touch it. So it's going to be like 2-3 years before you see these characters. So part of me is like, maybe that's why they give it such a clean ending.
Yeah. No, that's a great call, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what's happening because it seems like now it's just Grogu's apprenticeship and their adventures, and it sounds like they've offered their services to the New Republic, so that's pretty cool. Like that'll be fun to see.
It's neat.
I did read a confirmation from Filoni a couple hours ago where he said it would. Yes, indeed, we're going to see Dindjarin and Grogu team up with Captain Teva to do some exploits in season 4, which is like
nice.
No kidding. Okay. That was established.
That's cool. Maybe that's the Thrawn investigation. Maybe that's what that is. And so, totally. I feel like enough breadcrumbs were laid in this season to do something bold with either Thrawn or someone else. And I was like, I just so wanted that to happen. But I get it. It was like the Mephisto of Star Wars. It was like I so wanted a sort of like Mephisto tease in WandaVision, but it just didn't happen. And then I thought like breadcrumbs were almost like perfectly laid for that to happen. And I just felt the same way in this. So we'll see Thrawn, just not yet. So
because it was like Thrawn.
We'll see him in a few months.
Thrawn was already announced for the Ahsoka trailer, so like if we got the sort of Thrawn at the end of this, I think it would be kind of ho hum. It would not be like seeing the blast doors open and seeing Luke Skywalker walk through the door for sure,
We do get Pelion though. Pelion, I think, is the Thrawn tease of this season in a major way. And I think the other big information. I think we have a few pieces of information here to look at. We have the Pelion, obviously, is the Thrawn, layup here, and then we have the Mando working with Captain Teva in the New Republic. That's definitely happening. That's what's ahead, it seems. And then third, the clones. The clones were designed to use the Force. That is crucial information that I think was just sort of like given to the audiences at this point. And I think that information will be important going ahead. So I think make sure you clocked that info.
Yeah, Snoke's incoming.
Yeah.
So many Snokes.
The Jason just mentioned, and I was thinking the same thing, is that he was very surprised there wasn't a mid or post credit scene, as was I. I was really, really waiting for it.
Yeah, I scrolled to the end, like right after watching the episode, just hoping there was more. I was like, there's got to be something here.
I waited till after all the Czech voice talent went by and there was no music. I was like, I need to make sure this one, I don't miss a post credit epilogue. And people were, there was a lot of people that were like, what, it belongs there, but it like I said, it just doesn't, because it's Thrawn's not the surprise. Pelion's the surprise. Pelion's that's the surprise character. Like, oh, he's going to be in there too. We already know Thrawn's around. Yeah. But can we talk Shadow Council for a second? I don't want to cut you off, Adam. If you have
go for it. No. I would much rather talk about Shadow Council.
Yeah, right. Like, what are they thinking now? Like, you're on the Shadow Council. You're one of the warlords, and Gideon's like, oh, yeah, these Mandalorians are going to be a problem. I need some people. And they're like, has anyone talked to Gideon lately? And he's dead.
Yeah. I think it's good news, bad news. Good news, Gideon is dead because no one seemed to like him, and he seemed to be...
No one liked that guy anyways, especially Hux.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Bad news, we now got to figure out what we're going to do with the Mandalorians, right? So
they're a problem.
Yeah.
Because they all agreed. He's like, Pelion was like, they could impede our plans. Like, everyone was afraid of them in the spies.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's inevitable that Thrawn will have dealings with Mandalore, right? He may want to, muzzle them if they try to attack or interfere with his plans, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, that could be the Empire Strikes Back, the heir to the Empire Strikes Back, second thing is they could get a fistful of Thrawn.
I was so hopeful one of Gideon's ties was going to like crash into a cloaked chimera in this episode. I was so hopeful.
Yeah.
I was like, is it cloaked? Is it in orbit? Is he just like watching? He wants Gideon to if he can take out Gideon, he can secure that cloning intel or be the only one with that cloning data, basically be able to give someone the force or manipulate their genetics to give them the force or something. If he can control that, that's a super weapon in itself.
That would actually be a really cool scene if like that happened. Axe-Wove saw it, but then like Thrawn didn't like interact, and he was just like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
was
it's
that?
more of like he's just
there.
Yes.
And people who know. If you know, you know.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a scene with Thrawn or his agents scavenging through the wreckage of the Imperial base, right? Like it you're not having Gideon try to clone Force users to tell the story of Gideon cloning Force users, right? I mean, this is all building and building and building and building.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, they made it that far. And it didn't sound to me like he actually succeeded in making Force-sensitive clones. Like, he fell short. We know this is why he was, pursuing Grogu. But, it doesn't sound like he was there. But we do know we're going to get a Snoke in, 25 years. So,
23 years?
23, sorry, 23 is probably right. What are we, 9? We're 9.
Maybe.
And it goes 9 to 20.
Probably 21 years. I think it's 21 years at this point. Because I think this is
18 years?
The first season, 7 years.
Which is also like, how old is Snoke and how much does Snoke age? Does Snoke come out like?
Yeah,
I think he comes out fully formed.
Comes out shriveled like a raisin.
Yeah.
You're like,
So like we don't know how long Snoke was about before he connected with Kylo. Like, so we don't. We could actually get a live action Snoke in one of these things later on.
Is that not where this ends?
Yeah, I think this is
live action Snoke. Oh man, that'd be amazing.
But
I'm in on that. That's the Guillermo del Toro series,
right? Oh, that totally. That would be perfect.
Han. I mean, Kylo or something.
Yeah.
So I was like reading your comments this morning, Grant, and you're just like, well, I thought they were setting up something more like Anakin, and I'm like, and it just got me thinking about like how Anakin wasn't really honored enough in the sequel trilogy for me, whatever. But like it got me thinking about Kylo, and I was just like, wait, he was just like a bratty teenager that was a little sociopathic, but like he had the best parents, the best uncle, the best pet / best friend in Chewbacca. Like all these amazing
teenager
people.
Isn't moody and like chaotic.
You're right.
Like
You're right.
I just don't understand what Luke was thinking. I'm like, what teenager isn't thinking about destroying the world and listening to like Nirvana? Like what? Like are you kidding?
All right. Yeah. I guess.
What?
But it got me thinking that like actually the moment so I went full circle. I was just like, I don't know if they did anything, and then I was like, nope, that's actually probably pretty close to the only things they could have done with him. But Bloodlines, like we always saw Bloodlines short, but like that messed with him when he found out that Darth Vader was his
and that no one told him.
No one told him, and he found.
I think that's the biggest thing
in like the news, like the tabloid. That like
that's gonna mess with you.
Yeah.
Like your grandfather was Hitler and no one told you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's bad.
But like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is a kid that decides to be like, you know what, Hitler was right. Like thinks, his parents fought in World War II, but he's like, that Hitler guy really had it going on. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's messed up.
It's messed up.
It's
messed up.
Kids like to rebel.
Trying to
go the antithesis of what their parents are.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough about Rise.
He also had space
political commentary.
I guess we're getting all over things, but he had space Hitler talking in his head the entire time.
Right, even though it wasn't really.
That was happening as well.
Right.
Yeah.
He's kind of space Goebbels. I don't know. I'm not gonna.
I don't know. I know it's all falling apart now.
Yeah. Right.
But to bring it back to the Mandalorian, this season's fascinating because, like, we didn't get two things that we got. Like last season and the first season, and I talked about this, I think last episodes, and it's confirmed now. We never.
And we missed your point again.
His helmet is it never. God.
Oh. Sorry, one more time, Adam. I don't know. If you can turn off your phones, maybe you might be throttling bandwidth. I don't know.
I don't know. I gotta get a booster up here. Anyway, I was gonna say that we never see Din Djarin's face right this season. which is it's not a complaint, but that's fascinating, right? Like they were finding reasons to take it off in season 1 and 2, and they just didn't. And you could look at it again. I won't go into like what was going on outside of the scene, but I think it makes sense for the story that we're getting this season, that we don't see Din Djarin's face. We may never see it.
I
again.
used to think they were going to take off their helmets, but after this season, I think it's just their culture.
Yeah,
and it's not going to happen.
It's a choice.
And it's just
yeah.
I thought it was more of like they're just doing this because they're trapped in some older version that's far more stringent, and it's kind of like they were just refusing to join Bo-Katan's creed, and I thought they were going to eventually just coalesce, but it's like, no, this is just their culture, and half of them are not going to take off their helmets, but the other half are going to, and it's it, and they're going to accept each other, and that's what's beautiful. I think that's truly beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, the old ways saved them. I think it was Bo that mentioned it. It was like the old ways are what brought us together. The old ways saved the Mandalorians, and it's kind of beautiful. And so they're gonna. That bought them some time and some recognition and some honor. Like people they're gonna respect the old ways, and it'll be interesting to see how many people join them.
Right. And the other thing that's fascinating too, which is why I was so suspicious, and this just shows how much of a pessimist I am, or just how suspicious I am of people, is that like the reason I didn't trust the armor is because she, I don't know, changed her perspective slightly, and I'm like, well, she must have been doing that for nefarious reasons, as opposed to this, Ben, you kind of put it together earlier, like, no, that she knew that was what was gonna save Mandalore, is her being like, we believe this, we are gonna still honor this, but we also respect what your perspectives, and we're all Mandalore. We all just have our differing ways. And I thought that was really a kind of an amazing moment when you start parsing that apart, and that it seems to be honored even in New Mandalore, right? The other thing we don't get this season is outside help, like we get or even cameos. You can talk about Pelion. Probably our biggest cameos is Pelion and Hux, right? Last episode. Which are big, but only if you're like deep level Star Wars nerd, right? Yeah. So it's just fascinating. They did not lean on that at all this season. Like no one came swooping in.
Zeb was big.
Zeb. There you go. Zeb's the big one. Yeah, Zeb's the big one for sure.
I forgot to get all their names, but the Filoni, Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow, which I didn't catch in the first 2 times I watched The Spies, but they were sitting at the bar, and then of course they're sitting at the bar.
They were here,
in this episode.
Yeah,
but you're right.
I like that we didn't get a Luke swoop in, which I'm glad, right? Like the Mandalorians did it themselves.
Yeah. And I mentioned, I'm like, when we were offline, I'm like, I don't know, maybe the Ghost Crew comes in to help, because I thought they were really screwed. Like I was like, oh man, they've got Din Djarin, like he's done. They need help. But no, it makes so much sense. If they're reclaiming Mandalore, they reclaim Mandalore themselves and actually triumph. And of course, they're like, okay, you 2 guys take this extremely deadly Mandalorian by yourselves to far away. And he's like, and he gets out of it immediately. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's the old trope. It's like, okay, you 2 guys just take this guy. You'll be fine. Trust me.
Okay. So that's a really great point. Or it leads me to my other question is, last week my question was, why did Moff Gideon leave
him alive?
Din Djarin alive?
Hubris.
Do we right? Like it's Bond villainy, right? Like
yeah.
All right, if I'm gonna guess, and it's not
please.
obvious, it would be to lure Grogu in.
Okay, but do they need Grogu anymore?
Yes, because he's not done with the Force aspect of those clones. Like he never finished his work with Pershing.
Right.
I was led to believe.
But
I'm being generous.
Answer. Yeah.
No.
I don't know. For me, I thought the armor was the perfect character to do like a Vader-esque rug pull, like a kind of like a huge reveal. Like I was like, this character has been so mysterious for 3 seasons. It's about time she has a huge turn or does something really intricate, and sort of like the plot hinges on it in a crazy way in that finale. Like, I just really thought a lot was being set up with the armor, just given her sort of I don't know, her wisdom, and then also her comments on Bo-Katan being cursed and the Darksaber, and her I just monitoring who could be the Mandalore at the time, and eventually, I guess, going to decide who is the Mandalore, and sort of, I kind of wanted that moment as well, almost like Bo-Katan, even without the Darksaber, is still their leader, right? Like I almost wanted like that verification at the very end, without like, maybe
I think it was verified that the armor gave the torch to Bo to light the forge.
Yeah, that was my reading of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then it happened. It happened. Then it's just like I thought a lot was being set up with the armor, but
the other thing to keep in mind is, I think this is the end of Act 1, and things are not static. So, like, if
you're still burning that flame, huh, Adam?
Not for the armor.
I'm gonna make a magnet for you to put on your fridge. It's like the armor being bad is not gonna happen.
I think the armor, if anything, will be the mentor that sacrifices herself, right? Like I think that's her end at some point.
Well, that's the whole thing. I thought that it would be a fun character to be like, we'll get this planet back, and I'll like sacrifice myself to do it, almost like, but I won't be there for.
But Ben's right. You can't
the reclamation, and it's like you can't. She's the heart and soul. She's the forges all the armor of which they're anoints each Mando, right?
Yeah, and it's like she's the keeper of the way.
Yeah,
they don't even trust themselves. True. They don't really have text to follow. It's like
and she's like she's got to be like the HQ voice in like a video game,
right?
Too like she's got to be like the voice coming in, like troops deployed. Like reinforcements have arrived. Like it almost felt like Battlefront 2, where like you get that HQ command voice telling you like where the troop fronts are moving and things like that.
Here's such a cool character too. It's like you have a spiritual leader character. Like you have your leaders and you have your fighters, but like then you've got the spiritual leader, which is like not something you would normally have in a show like this. You definitely wouldn't have in like the Marvel universe or anything like that. Just like the one person that's like, I don't know. You guys would probably know that better than that and could argue with that.
Yeah,
but
I don't think the story direction I had in mind would paint the character as a villain. Like I think it would only amplify the character like through the roof. But instead, she gets crazy cool hero moments. She is incredibly cool in this episode. It just wasn't the screen time I thought we were going to get, and it wasn't any sort of plot hinging anything.
But I will say, if we next season see her have an apprentice, be very, very worried for the armor.
Yeah,
you mean Paz Vizsla's kid?
Yes, because the second she start passing on knowledge, that's when they're going to be like, oh, now we can do the.
It almost be too obvious, It's like she almost has to survive like forever. Like because
I don't know, man.
As soon as she gets an apprentice, you're like, well, she's gonna die.
I mean, mentors in Star Wars, as we talked about, don't fare well.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's why she's not taking an apprentice. She knows.
Yeah,
it's a death sentence.
It would be interesting if everyone left the room and she took her helmet off with the forge, because like that's a sacred space or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would have
been really cool.
Like like that. Anyways, I just thought this episode was super poetic, just to see Din and Grogu like work together again.
Yeah.
Like how they fight, how that's evolved. That was awesome.
Yeah. I talked about this offline with you, but it reminded me of Ghost of Tsushima, if you ever played that game. It starts with essentially like the kid unable to save his son and his father in battle and feeling helpless. And I think that was the tie-in with when we got the flashback, the scars for Grogu, like facing his adversity was like, anything else, I feel like it's survivor's remorse. Like he saw all of these Jedi, all of these, like all those pilots, like everyone give their life to save his. And he's just like, that was the scar. That was what he was suppressing. And I think he was just like, no, I can help him. And I'm not going to let anyone else die for me in his adolescent 50-year-old brain. And I think that's what we were seeing there when he was just like, no, and like come flying at the Praetorian guards. He was just like, that's not going to happen. It wasn't ignorant. It was very, he had very in control of himself.
And that control is there too, because we saw him ask someone.
Did we see him choke someone?
Yeah. He did. He choked someone, and then
was it Axe Woves? Or was it? I thought it was one of the Mandalorians in something. We see him. He definitely force choke someone because Dindjarin stops him from doing it. I can't remember when, and I have to go back.
Yes, no,
I guarantee
it
you.
was.
Yeah.
It was in the Was it Grief? It was in season 1.
It was Grief. You're right.
And he was like,
Grief
he's like, get that
Karga.
maniac off of me or something.
Yeah, like it.
No,
Yeah,
it was
he was
Cara
force
Dune?
choking. So
Was it Cara
I think
Dune?
you're. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was they were together, and yeah, you're right. So I think he learned.
But he has that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
please.
No, exactly. He learns control, right? He learns not to tap into the dark side. He's just learned that through his father, right?
I think through Luke.
Or through time with Luke,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it was like if Luke got away with spending 15 minutes with Yoda and then becoming kind of a full Jedi Master, they sort of gave that to Grogu. Like Grogu is still like we see at the end, he's training, he's not killing anything anymore. He didn't use a force choke. Like I thought he was gonna he was gonna come up and choke Gideon through the glass.
Yeah.
Like in Spies, I'm like, oh, he's gonna do something awful right now, and but no, like Luke taught him like how the light side of the Force, and he understands it.
And he just pushes people's weapons away from them and sort of disarms. Yep. I was like, oh, he's just super good guy. Like lawful
attachments.
I love Grogu.
Yeah, apparently attachment's not all that bad.
No, he's down with attachment, and that's. I mean, I think that's something he could have learned from Luke, right? Like Luke is like, no, my attachment to my friends saved everybody, as it were. Right? Saved his friend, saved his father. Yeah.
Now he's the Mandalorian.
And now
confirmed.
I mean the last scene there, right? Like he's just like we've seen over and over again him playing by the waterside, communing with other little creatures, and then he was like, "Whoa, what is that?" And the Mandalorian, the mythosaur is like, "Yo, who's that?" That was. They've made a connection. Maybe Bo's made a connection too.
I don't want to say we called that, but at one point I was like, Bo saw it, fell, and it appeared, but Grogu was there too.
Yep.
Like I think it was only there, it only awoken because Grogu was above it. Like that's and it's confirmed. I mean, like he's communicating with it in this little scene you see there. Let's see. I gotta think that mythosaur, that other shoe's gonna drop with the mythosaur as well. That's more information. Like maybe not. Maybe we don't see it ever rise up. It's just kind of a symbolic scene. I don't know.
Yeah. Darksaber. Why did it get destroyed? What does it mean?
I think we talked about that. I think it's now that it's destroyed, they're kind of ruling as a unified group more than, or like they're thinking more as a unified group than this one sort of like mighty warrior leading them. I don't know.
You don't think it gets reforged?
It definitely could, right?
Can it?
There's nothing stopping anyone.
I mean, if only they had an armor.
They fix lightsabers. You also have Luke, right? You could always ask Luke how to fix a lightsaber. Here's the thing. I wonder if that's Filoni saying, John, can you just destroy the lightsaber or the darksaber? Because like it has become a bit of a storytelling crutch when you look at like all the way through. I think it was really important and I think it served its purpose, but like I think you're right, Grant. Like at this point, it's not needed to that's not, because we also know that's not the Mandalore is not the person who has a darksaber. The Mandalore is the person who runs the mythosaur, right? Like that's why. Like
both.
We've now replaced it. Yeah,
I kind of think it's both.
Yeah,
and I think it still exists enough that you could reforge it. I mean, we've already seen Luke's A New Hope, saber, or Anakin's Revenge of the Sith saber, whatever you want to call it, be reforged. And I think maybe they remake the darksaber, but it's smaller, like shorter scale, to fit a particularly small hand.
Maybe.
I wonder if it's like Anduril, or that sword that is shattered in Lord of the Rings that will be broken until it's later needed during like the war with Thrawn or something. Like I know, because again, this feels a lot like the dwarves retaking, the Lonely Mountain and or the Arkenstone, right? Like that's what this feels like in a major way. There's a lot of sort of Lord of the Rings sort of motifs happening in this story, and I feel like it might be interesting if that it remains dismantled and like sort of like on a display case until they need it at some point, and the armor, I don't know, forges it once more, or they need maybe they need to restore the items again. This shows a lot of like upgrading items and upgrading equipment. Like it would be fun to have those fetch quests of like what you need for the Darksaber, the reforging of the Darksaber. That could be cool.
Yeah, it'd be real cool. I mean, they could redesign it. They could do a whole bunch of things with it. I mean, it was in the explosion, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, it was Beskar, so like when they're sifting through the rubble, whenever they get around to it, someone's going to find it eventually. And it's still, it's crushed, but it's essentially whole. It still has the all the important bits to it. Cool, interesting call. That was an interesting thing for them to do.
Is Gideon dead, guys?
I think Gideon's dead, but there could be some clones stirring.
Yeah, there might be another Gideon. Was his helmet was not on during the fireball, or was it on? Or
I think
was
it was on.
Oh yeah, he's still alive.
Because I'm like thinking, guys, if that suit was as advanced as we think it is,
yeah, maybe.
Don't you think? It would be fire resistant or something?
I guess if they want him alive,
Right.
he's alive. It's all about the rights, what they want to do with him. I think they could easily keep him alive, but I hope he's dead
too. Honestly, 2 fights with him was 1 fight too many.
He's coming back.
It was like, why go back to the same villain if you can create a new villain? That's just me, but
Now you're thinking like us.
No. I mean, they laid all these breadcrumbs for Gideon, right? It was either Gideon or Thrawn with the Pershing stuff, and with what's her name on.
You know what I thought the end was going to be? A daring like abduction of Pershing from Coruscant by Thrawn and some covert sort of team or something. I thought that was the setup. Like, let's get that scientist out because he was tied to the Force cloning stuff, operations under Gideon.
Well, I don't. Yeah,
let's also get rid of Gideon and take his Beskar research.
Yeah, but I don't.
I
thought
Thrawn was like going to send not himself, but maybe appear by hollow message or have his agents like Rook or something involved, like a Rook, almost like the trickling, like the of Thrawn's actions, and if he is indeed, on the cusp of the galaxy, on the outskirts of the galaxy, plotting, like if Pelion is speaking as if Thrawn is around, just preparing to make his bold return into the galaxy, like what does that mean? Like I thought they were going to answer a little bit more of what they were setting up there.
They might. Here's the other thing: is I think you were expecting maybe a daring rescue of Pershing, or because he was integral in the cloning. I don't think anyone knew that until right now, right? And so now we might be seeing that they start realizing, oh wait.
But if Kane tells, what? But like, wouldn't Thrawn also basically have his feelers out there and be listening to all Imperial comm channels and for chatter that's like maybe Kane relaying something to Gideon? Like, wouldn't Thrawn be in on those messages? You'd think Thrawn would just have his finger on the pulse of everything that's happening. In the Imperial remnant. Yeah.
Maybe, but I think Gideon was playing really close to the vest, right? Like, because they even showed in the previously on, which I watched the second time through, the specific line during the Shadow Council where he says, "Cloning was your purview, not mine."
Right.
He straight up denies any interest in cloning to the rest of the Shadow Council.
You could be right, because I love the play where it's like you have to establish how amazing Thrawn is and what a tactician he is. So like that would make a lot of sense. But I really think it'd probably be Hux at this point that would be searching for Pershing, because it's his guy that Gideon was sort of shepherding to Hux allegedly. And so, it's like he's the one I think that would go after. And he's obviously working on Project Necromancer, which can only mean bringing the Emperor back from the dead. If anyone's going to try and get that brain scrambled mess to help again, I think Hux is my most likely person to do it. That's going to be fascinating to see it.
But if they are going to explore the heir to the Empire territory, I mean, Thrawn is the numero uno sort of cloner, or I guess he's connected to Mount Tantus and Wayland and all the cloning that's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
And
we
that
got
seems like
several
far
years
advanced,
to
that's
set it up.
highly advanced cloning versus the smaller operation that Gideon has going on, right?
Yeah, but
Several
that's
things.
it's a small operation that he was able to get that looked like what about a dozen viable clones of himself.
And that's what I thought. I thought that was the crucial information. I thought that was maybe Thrawn would want that intel. Like, I don't know. Like that's almost like something I thought he would appear for.
How much does he already know?
And you could write that into the story, and that would make perfect sense. You're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And he gets rid of Gideon, and like he's killing two birds with one stone all the time. Like whatever he's doing, he's like, maybe he's promising back the forge to the armor, and but also, you know, only if she'll give up Bo-Katan or something. You know, I almost just wanted a lot of more moving parts to the finale, and he's only appearing by hollow message, and he's sort of got all this control and already, and you're like, oh, he's just this domineering force. Like he is a terrifying tactician to sort of like, I don't know, just be operating in the shadows. That's almost like I love when because he does operate in the shadows in the books as well, and then he also just makes himself known and fights, you know, head to head with people. And I'm like,
yeah.
So it's cool to see like his covert actions. And I'm almost like, are we going to get those covert actions, or in Ahsoka, is he going to be a Bond villain?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm worried it might be a Bond villain. I'm worried it's, you know, he's not going to be as I don't know, tactful as he was in the books.
In Rebels, he was kind of a Bond villain. And I'd like it to be a little more Zahn style Thrawn, where it's like, Heir to the Empire. I just bought it. I just started reading Heir to the Empire. I was going to try and plow through it before this pod, but I was like, it wasn't going to happen. I had too much work. But we should definitely cover Heir and then the other two of that Thrawn trilogy, just to see what nuggets we can glean.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just read Heir again, reread it, and I've got a lot to talk about. And there, again, I think last podcast I told you guys like the moments that I hope they keep.
But I think that's next season, man. I mean, we've been talking about how fast they've punched through this season of Mandalorian, but they are slow. They have to slow play some things. They can't do everything all at once, and I'm glad they're not, because I want this series to carry on for years and years. Yeah, give me 6 more seasons of Mandalorian. I think that'd be great. So there's plenty of time for Thrawn. Obviously, he's going to play a part in Ahsoka, so we don't have to wait that long for him.
Might be the perfect time to launch a Rangers of the New Republic, if that's indeed the sort of like Captain Teva and the Adelphi Station Rangers, like, because now Din and Grogu are just taking, you know, bounty board missions from them, so it's like, might be a good time to start that show up.
It makes me wonder if like this next, season 4 was really kind of cobbled together between Rangers of the New Republic and like, was this supposed to be the Rangers of the New Republic season? But like now they're like, well, we don't have what's her name anymore, so let's just make it a Mando season. And have
I felt like part of what was happening. Yeah, I felt like that was part of what was happening even this season, right? So I wonder if he did split it up between.
They should do like a Top Gun with Jason Syndulla, where it's like his beginnings as a starfighter pilot.
Oh, man, that would be such a cool like standalone ep.
Yeah.
Just like Star Wars, like Danger Zone, and then like, I'd live for that.
That'd be
I mean, we're getting Hera, right? So there's got to be someone's. They got to mention Jason at least a little bit, right? Like, we got to get some teases.
If I could see live action Jason Syndulla in the next 12 months, I would be a very happy man. I don't know why. It would just that would be pretty cool. That would be a really fun deep cut. Because he's probably got the Force lingering in him somewhere, and like you could do a lot of fun stuff with that.
Oh yeah,
Hera's an amazing character. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we covered it. I think we covered the app.
Let me just see. A couple more things. I'm not done.
You have some notes?
I have some notes. I've earned my notes. I will continue to tell myself. Actually, I think that one was the last one. Any other things? Oh, okay. So I'm gonna do some quick hits here. The patch on Tiva's uniform is a Rancor, so he was like Rancor Squadron. Didn't catch that a lot.
That's awesome.
Nice.
The Quarren ship from that season. I forget the episode. Yeah, the Jack
The
Black
Jack
episode.
Black. And,
They were headed
yeah.
to Trask, and Trask was the planet from season 2, where that like water planet where they run into the Quarrens there.
Right.
That's where they were
right.
trying to escape to. Yeah, they do mention that the rogue Mandos, when they were like capturing that ship, he calls over his shoulder. He's like, "We have a contract on Plaisir 15." So it was like they were just getting hired as local protection for Plaisir 15. That's also something I wonder what they're doing, because the losers in this season are Plaisir 15. They've lost all their detectives and their security force. So did some stay behind to act as security, or like what happened there? I gotta know that.
I thought they rid the nano droids from their systems, and so
Yeah, but they still wanted a defense.
nobody more haywire droids.
It wasn't, but they weren't internal protection; they were external protection, and so like
Right.
they wanted to have a military on contract. So I'm just curious what's up with that. Also, I noticed from that dinner scene, so a lot from that episode. Jack Black goes, "Hope you like secretions. Have a little sip sip." And it like there was like a thing, and they were drinking the secretions from some creature that was like in a globe before. It was like almost a little like it was a little bit like Jabba the Hutt, like, kind of gross.
That's incredible,
but amazing. Have a little sip sip.
Nice.
Order of Independent. Oh yeah, so yeah. Also, I caught what Grogu was dubbed. He was dubbed a Knight of the Order of Independent Regencies. So there's an order of independent regencies in the galaxy, and of which that Grogu is a knight. So he's got that going for him, which is nice. Something about the secrecy of Thrawn's. Oh yeah, so Pelion mentioned the secrecy of Thrawn's return, and it seemed like he wanted it to his return to coincide with the rebirth of the Emperor, like Project Necromancy. Like he was going to stay hidden until it was time to bring forth the new Emperor. That was the impression that I got out of that scene after like my 4th viewing of it. I don't know if that's a thing or not. Editing the reptile that attacked in season 1. I don't know what that. Oh, eating the reptile that attacked in season 1. Oh yeah, they're on Navarro, when all the Mandos are on Navarro, they have a cookout, like a pig roast, but the thing they're eating is that like flying reptile that was harrying them across the plains in Navarro, which I thought was
that's really funny. And that injured, did it injure Grief Karga?
Exactly.
And then
yes.
Yeah.
So that was a little
that's funny
flip there.
Nice.
What will Mandos do with Navarro? Oh yeah, so like what are they going to do with that plot of land that they have on Navarro?
Nothing. I don't think
they're
they
going to
care.
design a Lego set based on that plot. Sell it to kids.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, with all those ships. I mean, I was thinking like if they needed, like they do have some underground gardens and stuff on Mandalore, but I thought they might be like they just like grow some crops or something like that. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But it's like, because then
I think they just gave it back.
Yeah, they might have just given it back, but because like then Grief Karga flips the keys to some like chateau in Navarro for that closing scene, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the locals, the local Mandalorians, they did mention that some tried to explore below the surface, but none survived. So they were just like, yeah, we don't know what happened. But they either got killed by monsters,
so they were just,
or they got killed by
the Empire, or
those cave dwelling
that makes sense.
Creatures probably attacked them.
Yeah. Yeah, and there is a line, and we may have talked about it last week, in The Spies, where Gideon says the troopers have me in them. Gross. And I was like, oh, wait a second. And it, like, if we were really paying attention to it, it makes sense. And I was like, oh, wait, does that mean all those like troopers are Gideon clones? And they might be. And the ones in the tubes are just like the Force clones? Or was he, because he like sort of talked about this, I keep wanting to call them super troopers, but they're not handing out tickets, stoned. The new like Force infused hybrids or whatever. But he did sort of preview that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much. Oh yeah, and then that giant light cruiser that the Mandalorians have, that was the light cruiser from the second season that was stormed by Luke Skywalker. I didn't realize it.
That's Gideon's
light cruiser. Yeah.
I never put that together either. That's awesome.
I didn't get it till they jumped out the airlock, and I saw them come out of the center of the cone, and I was like, oh, that was the launch bay for the TIE fighters. And then I was wow, that's Gideon's light cruiser.
That's cool.
All right,
I'm surprised the Mandalorians weren't like, we'll send a delegate with Gideon to make sure he goes to trial and does not escape. Yeah. It's I feel like I would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Just personally, if I had any, say in what the Mandalorians
or
do.
Cara Dune should have been right with him the whole way. She really dropped the ball. I mean, if we're gonna blame anyone, let's blame.
Yeah. Well,
this gets extra points because it doesn't have Cara Dune, but
yeah. No, but I mean, I'm just saying I blame that Cara Dune for that mistake. She should have, she's getting promoted and all that. What's she going to do now that she knows that she didn't actually bring anyone to justice and she was the weak link? Okay, that's all I got. Those were all my little nuggets of knowledge. I hope your lives are richer because of it.
No, that was elucidating to many things I didn't know.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Next week we are going to play Star Wars Jedi Survivor and do a review of the book. Right? We're going to do
that's right, Battle Scars.
Yeah, Battle Scars.
It's going to be all about video games next week, which would be cool. And then after that, we've got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
we can't wait for. But next week, video games, baby. Can't wait. I'm been playing Fallen Order on Grandmaster and getting my butt kicked in preparation, just trying to desperately relearn the mechanics and unlearn the God of War mechanics and relearn the
I heard there's new combat stances or something. I'm excited.
It sounds like they're just we're gonna do Tsushima, we're gonna do God of War, we're gonna do they're just cherry picking from all the greatest hits to make their combat sequences. So let's go. Let's do it.
And just got the announcement that you can preload it starting on the 25th. So everyone preload it so you can start playing it when you wake up on Friday.
I've already got the countdown going on my home screen.
Nice.
R5, preload that game.
Yes. R5, the real hero. I mean, honestly, he played the R2 route.
R5, next shield.
Next shield.
Such a good moment.
That was a classic scene. Everyone, hallway scenes. I think we can thank either Tony Gilroy or Gareth Edwards for that Vader hallway scene. It started a trend in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Rad. All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for listening to us. Hope you enjoyed The Mandalorian rewatch, do all that. But yeah, crack a book. Go crack Battle Scars. It is going to be a fun little story. Can't wait. And, if you like the video games, good news. Next week, great new game coming out. We'll talk to you then. But as always, may the Force be with you. And here comes the outro, which is late.
This is Grex Kondak signing off. For the latest breaking news, follow @CoreWorldNews on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you, and good night.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.